While they've made some great hires on the coaching and front office sides of things, let's not lose sight of where the Sixers are as a franchise. They are in an incredibly difficult situation right now. They have a roster that makes zero sense, they have two of the very worst contracts in the NBA, and they have an absolutely devastating lack of shooting and perimeter shot creation. And to top it off, they have very few clear opportunities to alleviate those issues. I say that not simply to bring your spirits down, but rather to point out that it is absolutely essential that they nail their picks during next week's NBA draft. They have such a dire need for cheap, quality contributors and so few avenues of acquiring those types of players that it feels to me as if whiffing on this draft would be a disaster, even while it might be a relatively weak draft. With that in mind, here are a few players that I would zero in on if I were the Sixers and I had the 21st pick. First up, we have Cole Anthony, a 6'3" point guard from UNC. Anthony has a whole bunch of traits that make him an intriguing option at number 21. He has potential to be a lights-out shooter, he's a capable ball handler, and he has big-time leaping ability. Prior to this season, Anthony was projected as a top 5 pick, but an underwhelming season at UNC has knocked him down into the Sixers' range according to most mock drafts. But in spite of the allure of a shot-creating guard with potential that many once deemed worthy of a top 5 pick, I find myself feeling pessimistic about Anthony, at least relative to the other players on this list. Aside from his shooting ability, I just don't see where Anthony projects to be elite on the NBA level. His pick-and-roll scoring ability is polished and tight, but he lacks the fluidity and burst to be a truly elite scorer in those situations. Without developing a herky-jerky, shifty off-the-dribble game, I also don't see how he ever becomes a reliable isolation scorer. Throw in some major concerns about passing ability, defense, and relationship with teammates, and I'm just not that willing to bet on Anthony. If the Sixers take him, it's a decent haul for the 21st overall pick, and I think he could contribute right away. But by my estimation, we're looking at someone with a ceiling somewhere around Jordan Clarkson territory. More pessimistically, I could see Anthony being the second coming of Jared Bayless, a bouncy 6'3" shooting guard who lacks the ability to be a volume scorer, but sticks around in the league for a while mostly because of shooting. Bayless, as much as Sixers fans hate him, was a useful player in the league for many years, and that wouldn't be a terrible takeaway for the 21st pick in the draft. But if I'm the Sixers, I'm just intrigued by more other options on the board. Next up, we have Tyrese Maxiell, a 6'2" combo guard from Kentucky. Maxey is lacking in one crucial area where Anthony is not, shooting. But I have him ranked ahead of Anthony because he's superior in just about every other way. Maxey is a dogged defender who takes every matchup personally. He's an extremely high character kid who's beloved by coaches and teammates. He's very shifty with the ball. He's at least an average passer. And unlike Anthony, he has no major injury history to speak of. Most scouts don't seem to project Maxey as much of a scorer at the next level, but I think there's untapped ability here that might have been hidden during last season, much like other guards of Kentucky's past, like Devin Booker or Tyler Hero or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Maxey is incredibly crafty, he plays at his own herky-jerky pace, and has excellent balance, body control, and touch that allows him to be efficient around the rim. He understands how to initiate contact with big men extremely well, and I think his upside at the next level is as a second or third option on a good team. And yet, a big part of the reason I'm willing to bet on Maxey is because even if the scoring ability never flourishes, he still brings a lot to the table. I believe in the jump shot even if it has a long way to go, because I believe in his character and his work ethic. I also believe in his defense, and I think he'll buy into whatever role that a team asks him to play. If he reaches his upside, I could see Maxey being a Mo Williams level scoring guard, but on the more realistic side of things, I think we're looking at a Tyler Johnson type player, a tough, versatile guard who can impact the game in all kinds of ways. Next up, we have Desmond Bane, a 6'6" wing from TCU. Bane is a very different mold from Maxey or Anthony and doesn't have the upside of either one of those guys. And ordinarily, I'd say that players with the Maxey or Anthony mold are the types the Sixers should be targeting. But man, Bane is too good to ignore. In his 4-year career at TCU, Bane shot 43.3% from deep on almost 600 total attempts. Despite a truly bizarre shooting form, Bane is deadly accurate and has some ability to shoot on the move around screens. He's also an incredibly smart player with excellent live dribble passing ability. And to top it off, he's a rock-solid defender with a bulky frame that allows him to guard multiple positions. Simply put, Bane has all of the characteristics you could want in an NBA role player. Of all the players on this list, Bane is far and away the player who I'm most confident in making an impact right away. If that's the Sixers' priority, they should look no further. If Bane's shooting, particularly his off-screen shooting, transfers to the NBA, I could see him being a Joe Harris type of player. If it doesn't, Wes Matthews isn't the worst name to consider either. Next up, we have Aleksej Pokousefsky, a 7-foot forward from Greece. Pokousefsky is the ultimate wildcard pick, not only for the Sixers, but for any team that drafts him. He is a complete unknown, having not yet turned 19 and having spent last season playing in the Greece 2nd Division. I don't have the slightest clue of what to call Pokousefsky positionally. He's a legitimate 7 feet with a solid handle, dazzling passing ability, and promising fluidity to his shooting stroke. He's also frighteningly skinny, somewhat heavy-footed on defense, and doesn't generally have the mindset of a rim protector or anchor of a defense. Pokousefsky is so incredibly talented yet so raw that he fits Fran Fraschiller's infamous 2 years away from being 2 years away descriptor perfectly. If the Sixers draft this kid, don't expect him to be anything remotely resembling an NBA player in year 1. But he's so damn talented, I just might take a chance on him if Maxey and Bane were off the board. In terms of a comparison, Bol Bol is the only one that seems fitting in my mind. An incredibly skilled, gaunt 7-footer who plays whatever position you want him to. On the negative potential outcomes, Dragan Bender and perhaps even Zhou Qi come to mind. Pokousefsky doesn't fit either of those comps perfectly though. He is a species that the NBA has not yet discovered. There is real risk if you draft Pokousefsky. Many foreign players with dazzling tape come to the NBA and are an instant reminder that we can't take every player who dominates foreign B leagues seriously. Others, well, they win MVPs and make everyone who pass on them look like idiots. See Antetokounmpo, Giannis. Last but not least, we have Tyrese Terry, a 6'2" point guard from Stanford. I'll be brief on Terry since most of the latest mock drafts have him going off the board well before the Sixers pick. He's a lights-out shooter who can hit off the catch, on the move, or off the dribble. He has shot up boards recently after measuring 6'2" without shoes and reportedly adding on 15 pounds of muscle. That's great and all, and I'd support the Sixers drafting him at 21, but I can't quite get the hype behind Terry potentially going in the lottery. His game is not interesting at all, aside from the shooting. He doesn't have the burst or the handle of anywhere near, say, a Steph Curry that would allow him to cause major damage with the ball in his hands. And he's clearly going to be a liability on defense for his entire career, regardless of how many pounds of muscle he's put on. Players who can shoot like Terry almost always stick around in the league. He's a useful player, don't get me wrong, but I'm not convinced that his upside is anything greater than Bryn Forbes. Thanks for watching. From the rights to Ricky Sanchez, this has been Mike O'Connor.